Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Pereira. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi sent a stern message to cow vigilantes in the country saying that killing in the name of cows is unacceptable. He was speaking at the centenary celebrations of the Sabarmati Ashram in Ahmedabad in Gujarat. The remarks come in the backdrop of several incidents of lynching and murder of people by self-styled cow vigilante groups over rumours of cow slaughter. The most recent incident was the murder of 15-year-old Junaid Khan by a group of people on a Mathura-bound train in Haryana after an argument escalated over seats. Junaid, who was accompanied by his two brothers, was going back home after Eid shopping when he was mocked over his skull cap and referred to as a beef eater. 5 people have been held so far in the incident. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze if the Prime Minister's disapproving remarks on lynchings stop violence in the name of cow protection. Joining me on the program today are Aditi Phadnis of the Business Standard, John Dayal, writer and social activist, Professor Rajvir Sharma, Senior Consultant, IGNU, and Marwah, former Delhi Police Commissioner. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Aditi Phadnis, I'd like to begin with you, of course. Do you believe that, after everything that's been said about the Prime Minister in the past, about how he's been mum on several issues, that he needed to come out and speak, at least this time he's come out and spoken, so credit needs to be given to him for that, for at least setting, for getting the ball rolling?
Well, this is not the first time he has said this. He said this in the past also. But I have to say that even after what he has said, even in the past, incidents have gone on unabated. We saw the Una incident, we saw the distressing thing is that the BJP does not seem to consider this overly disturbing. A very senior BJP leader from Gujarat told me that despite the Una incident, and although the government acted promptly and put people in jail and so on, he added with somewhat with ill-concealed satisfaction that despite that the BJP swept Una in the next election. So I mean, I don't think this is not the right way of looking at things. This is no amount of words are enough to criticize things like this.
Okay, fair enough.
And the Prime Minister has done his job, but I think he needs to follow it up with concrete action in other state governments where these kind of things are happening.
Sure. John Dayal, words are not enough. Actions speak louder than words. So the words should be backed up with strong action going forward.
The lynching, the actual killing, is the tip of a very large and broad-based pyramid. A pyramid of hate. Many things contribute to it. The identification, particularly of Muslims, as somebody who has to be targeted, even if he smiles when Pakistan wins or whatever, or Kashmir, patriotism, nationalism. There are other factors, and then this builds up. We have this whole series of politicians and quasi-politicians and non-state actors asking for blood, asking for all sorts of arrangements, including more births by a certain community so that the other community can be contained. And this builds up so that eventually, and I question the fact whether the argument was over seats. It could be over anything. Because before the argument, they were being mocked for the symbols of the identity, their beard and their caps. Now, I have a beard, but patently it's not a Muslim beard. If I wore a cap, even then I would not look, if I may say so, a Muslim. But a young boy with a beard, but no moustache and a cap, would look a Muslim and will be looked upon, targeted, and then the process starts, which sometimes ends up in death and sometimes does not end up in death. So, the Prime Minister's statement, with all its drama, all its vigor, all its fire and brimstone, needs to be looked at this. Did he, in cold tones, tell the chief ministers they will be responsible? Did he call a meeting of all collectors, all superintendents of police and the DGP and tell them, dear sons, if anything happens in your district, you will be held responsible? That is the sort of signal that needs to go to bring this thing to a head. This is going too far. It should be stopped. And the PM, as the boss, as the top honcho, can do it. And he must do it.
Okay, fair enough. You know, Professor Sharma, at least the ball has been set rolling. Do you believe that stronger action, stricter action will be taken in the days to come? Because this is something that hurts the image of the country and it hurts the image of the party in power as well.
Mr. Pereira, you are very right. But I would rather begin by saying, A, that there is a need to decommunalize and depoliticize killings.
Yes, on the whole. Yes, I completely agree with you on that. Yes.
And the people who want to see these killings with a communal kind of a spectacle, you know, they are doing disservice to the community, and they are doing disservice to the nation also. Having said that, the Prime Minister in fact has made a very clear, sensitive, sensible appeal to the sanity of the people, number one. Number two, he has also sent a very clear and stern message, as you rightly said in the beginning, that look, the questions of killing, whether it is on cow vigilantism or any other reason, is not acceptable. Now, the arguments that are being, what else the Prime Minister can do? To say that he can call the meeting of the collectors, I think it shows our ignorance of the constitution or working of federal system. We are a federal country, and law and order is not within the powers of the central government, not even least the Prime Minister. Mr.
John Dayal wants to counter you. I'll let you respond to what he has said as well. A quick counter, Mr. John Dayal.
Okay.
And then I'll give you a chance to speak as well. Yeah.
No. Of course, law and order is a state subject. Every child in class 6 knows that. But when things like this happen, when there's a pattern, when the violence of a specific nature spans the states, the center can and must say something, do something, call something,
and
call a
intervene
meeting.
Is what you're
the
saying.
Prime Minister of the past, Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru, used to write a monthly letter to the chief ministers pointing out what could be done.
But the point that the professor was making, that, you know, lynchings are lynchings whether you like it or not. They are all the same. A death is a death at the end of the day, Mr. Dayal.
Terrorism also kills, many other things kills. Law and order still remains a state subject, but the center acts in many ways.
Okay.
These are...
You made your counter. Let Professor respond now.
Mr. Pereira, I think, and let us be very clear on two things. One, that terrorism is a different context. It is a matter which is concerned with security of the country. It is concerned with the safety of the country. It is not merely the law and order situation concerned with a particular state. The terrorists are rather attacking on the sovereignty of the nation, and therefore the center can intervene. But if we look at the judgments of the Supreme Court, and if we also look at the statements of several political leaders and constitutional experts also after 1994, I think it has become very clear that even the deployment of the paramilitary forces is not that easy for the center to do until unless there is a request from the state government that law and order situation is going out of control, and therefore we need your support, and therefore send some paramilitary forces. So therefore, in such like situations, let's say for example killing of a person somewhere, it is completely the task of the chief minister or the home minister of the state to call the meeting of the DMs, to call the meeting of the SPs, and say that what the Prime Minister has said, please respect. And it is not merely for the Prime Minister to remind the Chief Minister. Chief Minister is elected for the purpose that the life and property of the people must be saved at any cost. So therefore, I think it is too much to politicize things, that it is sometimes people say it's a lip service. What else the Prime Minister can do? He in fact has said that look, law and order is what is the responsibility of the state, whether it is central or the state government concerned. Therefore, I must say that this message of the Prime Minister should be taken seriously, not only by those who are killing people. He has sent a message to the persons who are engaged in the killing of the people, and he has also sent a message to those who are responsible for the maintenance of law and order.
Sure. Mr. Marwah, I'd like to bring you into the picture now. You know, a strong message the professor is saying to the people who are killing, and also to the people who are, you know, ensuring that there is law and order is maintained. But what really needs to be done? Are mere words enough to deal with a situation like this?
You know, enforcement of law and order is one aspect. But the question that first we tackled is why such an incident has taken place at all. After all, these incidents were not taking place earlier. It isn't that vigilantism wasn't there earlier, but there was no killing. This killing has to be taken in the context of politics that are being played in the country in various places. And the second part is the fact that this sort of a crowd gets so emboldened that they can do a thing like that and think they can get away. It speaks very poorly also on our law and order machinery. So Prime Minister has to, he sent a strong message, that's fair enough, but he has to do more. He has to ensure that this message gets to the lowest level, where law enforcement is directly the responsibility.
But there is a message in this to the police as well, isn't there? Because
that's what I'm saying, law enforcement.
Yes, sure. So will it percolate down to that level?
Oh, but that is now something to be seen, because unless the people think that they are punished if this sort of incident takes place, we have to find out that in this Haryana incident, how many police officers have been punished.
Sure. Fixing accountability is key.
Fixing accountability.
Okay, fair enough. I'll get the gentleman in as well, but let me get the lady into the picture as well, because I want to hear something from Aditi as well. You know, a lot has been said about how these groups or these gangs, these cow vigilantes have become a lot more emboldened of late, Aditi. But the point being, do you believe that the cattle trade ban has, in fact, the decision on that has emboldened some of these groups?
Well, in UP, which is the biggest sort of contributor to the cattle trade business, and is actually the pink revolution begins in UP. You might be a little surprised to know that more Hindus are engaged in this business than minorities, than Muslims. So, frankly, whom it hurts and whom it does not hurt is a moot question. I'm not even bothered about that. I have two problems. One, that people, gangs of, what else can you call them? They're basically hoodlums. Gangs of hoodlums feel so empowered now that they can go about and stab people on the basis of their eating practices. I mean, we have heard on record the Swamiji of the Pejawar Mutt saying that there is nothing wrong in inviting Muslims to an iftar party in the precincts of the temple, which is the Udupi, the Krishna temple in Udupi, the seat of the Madhvacharya doctrine. He has invited them, and a person like Mr. Mutalik says that he does not know Hinduism. And Mr. Mutalik is saying that those who kill cows cannot be brought into the temple. The Pejawar Swami is saying that even Hindus eat beef. This is on record by one of the biggest scions, by a founder of the Vishwa Hindu Parishad. So,
sure.
Frankly, I mean, this whole debate there is no debate. There can be no debate on a thing like this. That's number one. Number two, I think people have to be afraid of the law. You cannot go around breaking it and expect that you will be patted on the back for it. So, law has to be exemplary in things like this. It's murder. So, the biggest action that can be taken must be taken against such people.
Sure. You know, John Dayal, do we have laws to deal with situations like this, to deal with hate crimes per se?
We have inherited, as Pakistan has inherited from the British, two laws, the blasphemy laws, which deal with the large of things. In the last 10 years before this government took over, some of us, including me, were involved in trying to bring about a specific comprehensive law against targeted and communal violence. That could not take place for many reasons, and the last government was as much to blame as the BJP, that it was killed while it was still a bill before it could even be brought before Parliament. Having said that, murder is a crime and has been a crime for ever since the IPC was written more than a century and a half ago, 302. It is a crime. The conspiracy is 120B. I mean, these are crimes even under ordinary law. But what Mr. Marwah said, and he has not only been police commissioner, he has been governor. He has seen things in their entirety. The problem is to treat lynchings, beef lynchings, as a mere crime, as a mere law and order situation, is to totally trivialize a much deeper malaise that is spreading extremely fast and poses a far bigger threat to the nation as such. It polarizes communities, it cleaves politics, it is, how should I say, it creates tinder.
Professor, there is no fear of the law is what some of the panelists are saying, and also that the fringe seem to be emboldened at the moment because the BJP government is in power. So do you believe that the fringe needs to be reined in so as to ensure that a lid is put on top of this?
The two things are here. One, that there is no disagreement on the issue that such kind of gunda elements must be brought to book. And I think you will agree with me, and even my co-panelists will agree, that whenever such kind of lynchings have taken place, the police has taken action. People have been arrested.
One at a time, please.
Please,
Mr. Dayal, let him complete.
Please,
Let us Professor, please complete your point.
I am saying that they have been arrested. Even in case of Junaid, people have been arrested. But the question is, our process of law enforcement is so long that you may go on waiting, and the courts also take too long to give justice to the people. And that is why the fear of law, in fact, may not be as strong as it should be, because they know that it will take quite a long time. That can be one kind of a thing. And secondly, it is not merely in the states ruled by one party or one coalition. I think right from Karnataka to Kerala to West Bengal to even Uttar Pradesh, when Akhilesh was there as chief minister, or even now in many states, such kind of lynchings have become almost as much the matter of fact as it is in any other state. So we must not look it into an issue as belonging to BJP ruled or non-BJP ruled state. We must analyze the situation as really concerned with finding a solution. Now the solution is A, that the chief ministers must take strong action. They must, because Prime Minister cannot be present in a police station, or the center cannot be present in a district to see whether the action is being taken or not. It is the man on the spot is the chief minister or his ministers or the bureaucracy, the administration. So therefore, what I would like to say is A, that there is no dearth of law. We have a law to deal with such kind of the unlawful activities, or what you call the lynchings.
But is the will present?
It is will is also missing somewhere. Otherwise, the kind of the incidents that are taking place, maybe stray, and I don't agree that it's always being done on the basis of, it's not hate killings always. Sometimes if you read, if you are a student of psychology, there are so many other reasons also behind such kind of behaviors, not merely hate, maybe anger, maybe an argument. For example, in Junaid's case, it began with the argument on a seat. Right. Later on, it might have taken some kind of a communal, exchange of words between the two groups. But to begin with, it was an anger which created a kind of a scene. I'm not trying to defend anything, but I'm saying that merely to give it a name, it also proves to be counterproductive. If you just call everything as a hate kind of a killing, then you are also contributing to the creation of or counterproductive activity. Adding to that.
Okay. Mr. Marwah, clearly someone is instigating these groups. Clearly someone is behind, behind them. Someone powerful is behind them, and that's why they are emboldened as well. How do you get to these instigators, and how do you deal with them?
The suspicion that there is an attempt to polarize the society, and communal lines cannot be underestimated, because as I said earlier, politics are being played, and they are being played quite blatantly in many parts of the country.
So
And that is
does it all just boil down to politics and nothing else? This
Politics-
is just the politicians trying to get an upper hand, come what may.
Politics want to polarize the society, and the police takes the hint from there, because if the minorities are being targeted, and the police and then is not as effective as they should be, because such an incident should not be allowed to take place at all, and it should be taken most seriously. Prime Minister has done the right thing by condemning it in the strongest possible language, but I think this has to be backed up.
Sure. Sure. Yes, yes, Mr. Dayal.
Two quick things I want to address about the police. And with all due respect to Mr. Marwah, because the police in his times was, I must say, of a very high order, particularly the ones under his command at the time. But here police has been complicit by what they have done and what they have failed to do. In several of these lynchings, they were present at the spot and failed to do that. But let me also address something that the professor said, which is very, very disturbing. To protest, to point out, to put the spotlight, the bit of sunlight on the crime, is being said to now being adding to the fire, to be adding to the polarization. That would mean that to protest, to argue against, to highlight, to file an FIR is a crime. Is that it? Is that the argument? I would say again, and let me say it again, and I pick up and build on the two statements made by my two panelists, including Mr. Marwah. We have to address what is causing this. We have to address the whole issue. Why does a cattle ban become necessary? And including in the cattle are camel, which are not cows. My little grandson knows that camels are not cows. Why is the trade in camels being banned, being restrained, being put into some bracket? Why? And particularly before or the season of feasting. What is the message? Let me tell you, the police may not get the message.
The government has very clearly said that
a moment. Let me
Okay,
complete the
okay,
sentence.
okay.
The police may not get the message. I may, as a journalist, not get the message. But the criminal gets a message.
Sure.
That when you include these things in the same package, what do you want done? Sanya bhaye kotwal to dar kahe ka.
Okay. I'm coming to you, Professor. Before that, Mr. Marwah wanted to make a point.
No, I wanted to make take the general point which Mr. Dayal has brought up. There is a tendency in the police always not to act, because they think taking action gets them into trouble. So unless there is strong command and control, police action will invariably be wanting. So that is where this particular crime has to be taken very seriously.
Sure.
Not making it not serious, because that is where then the law enforcement agency will get activated.
I've got 3 minutes left on the program. I'd like to come to you, Aditi, and get a closing comment from you on what next. How do we control the situation?
Well, frankly, it's each one for themselves. And I think we all have to, if we believe that I don't want to live in a society which kills people because they belong to a different religion. And I think all of us have to get out and say what kind of society we want to live in.
Okay, fair enough. Yes, Professor, you wanted to make... I'm coming to you, Mr. Dayal, but before that, Professor.
I just want to make two kind of comments. One, that there's a need to depoliticize the police administration. If we really
Absolutely.
we want to bring some kind of a solution to this problem, and it is not merely in one state. Politicization of police is rampant.
But which political party will do that?
That's what in 70 years,
it hasn't happened. So why will it have? Why will it change now?
It has been deliberately politicized. Police has been used as an instrument in
Yes.
70 years, and
Yes.
that is why police is now also carrying with that kind of legacy. So therefore, depoliticization is the answer. Number two, the second answer to this problem is that, for God's sake, don't be selective in your protests. Wherever the killing is taking place, it is in state A or state B, ruled by CPM or ruled by BJP or ruled by any other political party, for God's sake, don't be selective in your protest. And protest should not be on the kind of communalism. It should be a protest that, look, police has not taken an action, take action against the police.
Okay.
That kind of protest will find a solution to the problem.
That's a very valid point the professor is making, John Dayal. You know, killings, lynchings are taking place in Kerala as well between, you know, the RSS cadre and CPIM.
And should be condemned.
So,
and
so,
are being condemned.
so why has that been left out of the
myself.
protest?
No, that's what I'm trying to say. We condemn all killings because to the person who's dead, it doesn't matter who killed him. But let me say and wind up on this. I entirely agree with the professor. Police must be depoliticized. The administration must be depoliticized. Those are norms. The Dharamvela Commission report is lying, gathering dust. Maybe it doesn't even exist anymore. Having said that, you end the politics of targeted hate. The violence will end, will be minimized.
Fair enough. Mr. Marwah, show for us with your concluding remark.
You know, police reforms have been on the agenda for a long time. There have been Supreme Court directives. They were given as early as 2007 or 2008.
Yes.
And so many years have gone by and nothing has happened. No state has taken any serious step to depoliticize the police as we all want it to be. So, apart from this larger issue, the immediate issue needs to be tackled. That this particular issue of cow vigilantes taking law into their own hand should be taken at other levels as well, political level as well as at the social level.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. On that note, I'll call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. I'd like to thank all my guests, Professor Rajvir Sharma, Marwah, Aditi, Phadnis and John Dayal. Thank you so much for being a part of this edition of The Big Picture. That's all the time we have today. See you again next time.